approaching 2:20 p.m. on July 12th, 2018. Calvin Castine on what might be the end of the Rock Road, might be the end of the Brunel Road. I'm not quite sure at this point. I've made enough twists and turns to get here. Probably 12:30 or so. I was looking out my backyard toward this direction and I saw some white smoke going up, and I said, today's a bad day to be burning something. It's awfully dry in the North Country, and we couldn't quite get an angle on exactly where it was. And an hour later I was looking through Facebook and somebody posted that fire departments were being called. From his first description, I thought it was at the opposite end of the Altona Flat Rock area. So we went down the Slauson Road, and now actually we're heading for the Slauson Road. We went down the Vassar Road and realized we were going away from it. Mr. Greg Spinner takes off from the Altona Fire Department. So we turned around and came down the Minor Farm Road into the hamlet of Altona, and it has led us here. The fire department's arriving. I think back to my youth, somewhere around 60 years ago, either 57 or 58. There was a huge fire here in the Altona Flat Rock, as we see more white smoke coming up over there. This is an area, if you've watched any of our programs with Leonard Patry, Dr. Ken Adams, or Dr. David Franzi, you know that this is an area that is very susceptible to fires and forest fires. So there's a bigger cloud of whiter smoke coming right over there. And I'm not sure if we're going to be allowed to go any closer, or if we have to stay put. We'll obey whatever the firefighters decide is the proper way to address this. We'd like to get some coverage, but we don't want to hinder any of the progress that they're making right here. And of course, water would have to be a big problem. I'm sure they'll be running tankers in and out of here, and the off-road apparatus that they use to fight this kind of fire will be heavily used, I'm sure. We've chatted briefly with Chris Tremblay from the county coordinators. Not sure which car number he has. He has a car number that puts him in charge of the operations out here. And as we walk up this way, he said we could proceed at our own caution. We're going to see how close we can possibly get to it. And as you can see, you can get an idea why they call this the Flat Rock area, and they have the Minor Institute signs posted indicating we're going onto the minor property. As you might guess, a lot of mutual aid has been called in. In fact, I recognize one of those fellows on this wheeler vehicle going ahead of us, being from the Cherubusco Fire Department. As you may be able to tell, this is not an area that would accommodate your normal firefighting equipment. So you have to come in by those four-wheel type of vehicles. This is the type of surface that we're looking at throughout this Flat Rock area. a lot of low-growing stuff. Noted for the blueberries. And in fact, a century or so ago, the rumor has it they would pick their blueberries and some years set a small fire to get things going for the coming year. The blueberries actually, along with the jack pines up here, actually need occasional fire to thrive. This is the terrain we're walking over. Again, we've done several programs in and around the Flat Rock area, and we invite you to go to our Hometown Cable Network website. We did a story too, and Larry Gooley did a nice history of the Altona Flat Rock and the blueberry industry. And as we said, we did programs with Dr. Ken Adams, Dr. Dave Franzi, and Leonard Patry over the years. We're continuing our hike. We'll turn and watch these fellows come through. Very, very rough terrain, very slow going as they are racing to the battle of the fire, but they've got to get there in a safe manner. The last vehicle we passed included a truck with a little small tanker of water. Hey, Calvin. How you doing, Ted? Dan Dumas coming out from the Morris Fire Department. As you can see, not much leeway. Here comes another one. Vehicles are progressing very slowly, and here's somebody from Shazy. He's not quite sure if this is what he signed up for.
I didn't mean to blow the horn at you.
It's okay, Lee. It's the pharmacist, Lee Barcombe. So, now that traffic has passed, we'll attempt to go back in. Not sure if they were coming out to load up a little bit of water or what their trip is all about. But we'll continue. We've progressed to this point. Looks like it might be a snowmobile trail coming through this way. That would be a little smoother going probably, except that we're going in this direction. That's Dave Lucia, now with the West Shazy Fire Department. Back during the ice storm of '98, he was the fire chief here in Altona. He has since relocated, but still very active in the firefighter and emergency services area. And we have another vehicle bouncing its way down. This is from Altona.
I warn you to be careful because it's spreading.
Is it spreading?
Yeah, luckily the wind's blowing that way, but just be careful.
Yeah, Dave said thought it was switching toward this way, right?
Oh, it could be.
Yeah. Thank you. We've certainly witnessed on the news a lot of firefighters battling fires out west, past half a decade or so, it seems like it's almost year-round. And one thing we've all learned from that is that these fires can turn very quickly. It's like another truck coming through. We'll get out of the way. Thru Fire Department. And we bumped into a second or third generation firefighter? Third generation firefighter. What's your name?
Bryce Labarge.
Bryce Labarge. Usually I see you whistling out there at the ball games. Where are you heading for right now, Bryce?
I'm just going up this road. The fire's all the way to the road.
So you've got how many gallons does that yellow tank hold?
I think 5.
It's spreading fast. That doesn't slow it down too much, does it?
No, we got water up there though.
Oh yeah?
So.
All right, I won't hold you up.
Sounds good.
All right, thanks, Bryce. All right, Bryce Labarge from the Altona Fire Department. His father, Jamie, very active, and sounds like maybe Wayne Labarge was active in his younger days too. There are sirens in the background as more vehicles are coming. Bryce is heading up there by himself. I would think that if you had the manpower, you try to keep a buddy system going. And I'm sure they have ways of contacting each other, but still, if you had the manpower, that would make sense to me. As we continue to make our way up, and as we said, there's a slight breeze. Right now it's to our back, so that's going to help this fire decide which direction to go. I remember as a child sitting in my yard on the Ridge Road in Champlain in 57 or 58, and there were actually, even though as a crow flies we're probably 12 to 15 miles from here, there were actually leaves, burnt leaves flying into our yard from that distance. Trying to kickstart that wheeler. There's some area that's already been burnt out, smoking. And of course, we all know these things can flare up. I see a hose run alongside here, run back into there. Looks like Village of Dannemora truck has arrived. I'm sure the Miner Institute will forgive the firefighters for cutting down an occasional tree to aid their access. So these fellows were trying to jumpstart that wheeler are now going to hop a ride in that pickup. Mike Cahoon walking by us in the county operation. Recognize a few of these fellows here in the Altona and West Shazy fire departments, trying to get some water pumping. One of the firefighters told us that it hasn't been confirmed, but he'd heard that it could be spread out in miles. As we see, that smoke up there in the horizon is a ways away from us. And he said he heard it was miles in that direction that the fire had spread. There's a Beekman grass and brush truck. As we see firefighters up there on the top of this little knoll, little ridge. See if we can get a different angle. Ellenberg Depot. The truck repositioning. It looked like it might have been Phelan Miner at the wheel. We can actually see flames right here. It's the first time we've seen flames, and they are lively flames. Hopefully it's coming through on the camera, but there's lively flames. And as you could guess, when you got to make your way out diagonally and this fire suddenly starts coming in your direction, it doesn't give you a lot of options. So I'm not sure how much closer we're going to dare to venture. There's some real thick black smoke coming up there. Here comes somebody who just got instructions on where to head. The problem here, of course, is they have to keep coming back and forth to get water in. Here's South Plattsburgh arriving. And a small tank of water like that doesn't last too long when you're fighting flames like that. So at this point in time, it's 3 p.m. It looks like it's certainly starting to perk up at this point right now. Again, we're at the Altona Flat Rock area, and this is more the type of surface that this fire is going in on. Besides the pine trees, many of these jack pines, the fires actually release the seeds for new growth, and the jack pines, from what we've been told, actually rely on a fire to reseed. So this is part of nature's plans. The local firefighters are doing their best to minimize the effects. And this is definitely going to be more than just a few hour endeavor. We're 5.5 hours, 6 hours away from sunset, and if this is going like this at sunset, that could really be a problem here overnight. Got another couple hundred feet, and this is what we see. Flames and smoke in that direction, and a lot of tinder between me and them. We're going to go a few more 100 feet as this fire looks like it's ready to spread in any particular direction. We're not going to get too much closer than this, probably. Temperature is in the low 80s, or it was in the low 80s when I shut my vehicle off an hour or so ago. Now I've got thru coming out. Went out to get more water.
Right up there, you're going to see a sign. Go right up over the bank. They got your fucking hands full up in there. Okay? They got a lot of fires on the mountain.
Alright. There's an occasional swear word or apologies, but This is the equivalent of live coverage, and a man saying they've got their hands full in the direction here that firefighter Dumas is heading. Continuing our trek up the rough terrain, we've come off the main road and I'm going to head up this way, at least a little ways, but we don't want to get too close. It suddenly turns. Right now the breeze appears to be to my back, but wind, the fire can sometimes make its own wind. And this is as far as we're going to head. In addition to stopping this fire from becoming a major disaster, obviously also on the minds of the firefighters is their own personal safety. So they've got to be alert to that and changing conditions. Whoop. The wind shifted briefly, so we came a little closer to where these trucks are and the smoke. You can see them dragging the hose through the smoke-filled area. Okay. I've been told that if I go a couple hundred feet in this direction, it clears up a bit. I can see where the fire has burnt if I get through here. A little hill up above. I'm going to, there we go, and Dumas, that's where the view is. I'll keep the camera rolling. I see this is all burnt through here. As we make our way through here, if I sound a little different, I got a handkerchief over my mouth. This is the early area of the fire. And as you can hopefully see, this is all pretty much burnt. And we're probably not going to go much further. We could probably get another view if we got to the top of that little ridge over there, but there's a lot of smoke between here and there. And I don't really want to press my luck. Looks like we look up above. Hopefully the camera again is picking it up. We see lots of smoke coming up there. Lots of smoke coming up here in the distance. And lots of smoke in this direction here too. So we're on a little burnt out peninsula here. And here's what it looks like at this point in time. And very dry. Lawns are brown. And we've heard unofficially that this may have been started by some people camping. Had a little campfire that got out of hand. So time will tell whether that is the story. This is a desolate, wide open area right now as all the tinder brush has been burnt out. And we're going to have to try to make our way back to that direction. Continuing to make our way out. There's a Beekman Town truck again. Here comes Keysville. They'll be coming alongside, bringing water. Cherubusco. We heard some French being spoken down there. So chances are Hemingford is here, maybe Lacole, St. Bernard. All part of our mutual aid system here in Clinton County. Of course, Altona and Isle of Mont in the Vermont area. Not yet, bringing in a forest ranger. We're continuing to backtrack, but as we walk along here, I can see that the fire is spreading in this direction. So we have to be very careful that these firefighters who are back here don't become isolated and cut off. Fortunately, there's quite a few Altona people who are very familiar with these back trails here on the Flat Rock. So if some of them are in the area, in any group that gets cut off, they will know an alternate route. Here's where that snowmobile trail turns. And some more firefighters walking this time. They look again on the horizon. It's definitely starting to spread in this direction. Huh? Nobody's going to talk to me here? No. Calvin Sears will talk to me. You've been back there?
A little ways, yeah.
And it's certainly sounding very close right now.
It is. It's getting close to the roads. So we're just waiting for more water.
Yeah, and that's the problem with these grass and brush fires.
Yeah, yeah, for a while anyway.
So yeah, you don't want to get isolated. Here comes a vehicle. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
They're heading back to get more water. I might just hop on that back of that truck. So.
Yeah, there's Charbuscos.
All right, so this is the way out. Take care, Calvin Sears. Well, I rode out a ways, a very bumpy ride, but saved a lot of footsteps thanks to Cherubusco Fire Department. Firefighter Garand here is reloading their water. They bring water here, and the trucks back there are making their way back and forth. They fill up. We met a small Imagine that would help to knock some stuff down, contain that, but they are, the folks back here who've been back there are concerned about the direction the fire is heading. So we're going to continue on our trek as we have some badly needed overflow water here going down. Now we're heading this direction. There's more fighters coming in. And some coming back. Ten of four, actually about 8 of these firefighters, whatever they were doing, if it was their day off, a vacation day, leaving work, whatever it is, they're here volunteering to put this out, and they'll be here until the job is done. If you've never considered becoming a firefighter, give it some thought, particularly you young folks who want to be important in your community. And this is a great way to become a vital part of your community. Hop on board and work with these dedicated folks.
Catch it in West 18.
Dave Lucia is hoping to contain it on the other side in West Shazy. Here's headquarters. We're back here where near where our vehicle was parked. You see Lacole. Looks like Alberg. A firefighter with his personal vehicle back here. This is our view from this vantage point. A lot of smoke going up there, a lot of fire still happening. It's about slightly after 4 p.m. Temperature, I would imagine, is still in the low to mid 80s. We just got rid of a long stretch of 90-degree weather plus. Clarence LaFountain is here and offering whatever help he can have here. And a day or two we're supposed to be back up into the 90s, so hopefully this will be a short... Oh, you want to get in the shade, Greg Spinner?
Shade works for me right now.
All right. Greg Spinner is going to talk with us. First, he's got to confer with Chris Tremblay. Eric Day is here. The county is. Fire coordinators are here. Folks from Morrisonville. We're waiting for Eric to become available. We'll do another update here at 4:05 on the smoke situation. There is a Homeland Security helicopter in the area that Eric Day was talking to when I was over in that area about 5 minutes ago. So Homeland Security is here, giving an aerial view of what they're putting up with right now. And when the firefighters from the various departments show up, they sign in here so that they have a record of who is on site. Noticed another one of our Canadian neighbors, St. Paul de Illinois. If there are any fire departments that we haven't recognized that are here today, we certainly want to thank them too as we look at this ominous dark cloud. We've been meeting over here for about 10 minutes, planning our next strategic move. It's not something that, fortunately, not something that we have a lot of experience fighting up here. I'm using the editorial we. Looking toward the sky because I hear a chopper. There it is. Flying around the perimeter of the fire. Sure, they're taking pictures and video and relaying that information down here. The forest ranger has arrived back, and sure she'll be adding her thoughts to what's happening. If you look here, it looks very mild, but don't have to go around this tree very much to different shades of smoke, dark brown, blackish charcoal, and a couple of plumes of white, very white smoke, all merging together. And this headquarters has been set up in somebody's yard. You can see the roof line back there of an outbuilding. I'll just give you an idea of what everybody's lawn looks like in the North Country right now. This isn't the driveway. This is what our lawns look like. They've all turned brown from the dry spell that we've had. One of the people I hadn't noticed, looks like Kirk Beattie from the Minor Institute is here. He's got the maps of the Flat Rock area. As we hear the Homeland Security chopper go by again. It's on the other side of that white birch, so we're unable to see it. It's encircling the fire area. And now this forest ranger vehicle is pulled up. It's 4:22 right now. Now 4:38. I think we're going to wrap it up. We'll have time to talk to Greg Spinner or somebody else representing the firefighters at another time. Hopefully this is a one-day event, and as we are now 4 hours away from sunset, we're hoping that they're able to contain this. But for the time being, this is going to wrap up our look at the Altona forest fire on the Altona Flat Rock on this 12th day of July 2018. You're watching viewer-supported local television, Hometown Cable. If you appreciate the effort that Hometown Cable does 365 days a year, we need to hear from you. Without viewer support, this programming would not be possible, and there will come a time when it's no longer here due to a lack of viewer support from the community. In the meantime, we'll take one more moment to applaud the effort that these firefighters have put in today. They continue to battle this forest fire that seems to be a long way from being contained here at 4:40 p.m. Thanks for watching. We've decided to add one more shot to the video. This is the view from my home on a ridge road in Champlain, about 2.5 miles from the village of Champlain. This is the view of what that Altona forest fire looks like at this point in time at 10 after 5. It is 8:25 p.m. and this is a look at the Altona forest fire as it looks right now. Within half an hour of sunset, it'll be dark within half an hour. So it looks like a long night ahead for the firefighters, with more possibly tomorrow. So while the rest of us can move on with our lives, these volunteers are out here trying to extinguish this fire, and they've been out there for 8 to 9 hours already. So this will be the first look at the follow-up that's being taken on Thursday evening. It is now the morning of Friday the 13th, July 13th, 2018, and we were hoping that we looked at this a while back that the haze would clear, but it's certainly not going to clear. There's a distinct smell of smoke from here in my yard. We don't see any large amounts of smoke rising. It just seems to be a low cloud of smoke over that Altona area. It's 7:05 at the moment. And looking back at the headlines of the newspapers from August of 1957, the fire started. They thought they'd put it out, and then it spread and became far worse. Hopefully that's not the case this year. They obviously made great progress overnight, but as we saw yesterday, there's a large perimeter where it's smoldering, and you can imagine what the circumference of that perimeter of that area is. That whole perimeter is going to be miles and miles around. So to go around there and make sure that the fire is out is a daunting task. But if not, any one of those little burning embers could possibly ignite and start up a new fire, or 2 or 3 in different directions. So at this point in time, I'm sure the firefighters are still out there doing stuff. We'll try to see what we can do for coverage in the coming hours. It's about 10:30 in the morning on Friday the 13th. We're at the Altona Fire Station. We thought we'd pull in here and see what's happening before we head out. We see a reporter from Channel 5 just drove up. There are some people sitting in the station. As we can see, the state forest people, state fire fighters, Hogansburg, Akwesasne is here. There are vehicles parked along here. We're going to check and see what we can get for an update as we head into the fire zone again. Well, they are gathering support from throughout the northern tier. We saw a Malone truck over there. This is Westville coming in. Champlain, and we have the Franklin County Emergency Services trailer here. Well, they continue to arrive, support continuing to arrive. They're moving that Malone truck back here. That was up in that direction earlier. Hopefully there's no other major incidences that occur while all this is happening. I did see online this morning that there was a fire in Rouse's Point overnight. I have no idea how that turned out. But what happens is a lot of firemen, we didn't notice a Champlain truck yesterday, but they were probably on standby at some of the other stations that were here, because they got to keep control of the entire area and not end up with not being able to go to respond to other fires as they might occur. So we're hoping to get back at the end of the Brunel Road shortly, but we're going to wait here and see what the public information officer has to say. Liz Treppa, I think that's her name, from Channel 5 is here, so if she's talking to him or her, we'll eavesdrop.
That's fine, yeah. Just whatever you can tell us.
All right, E.O. Russell, was it?
Ed Russell.
Ed Russell, all right.
Could I actually have you scoot a little
He's
more?
a forest ranger, and he's going to answer some questions here for Channel 5, and we're going to eavesdrop.
Okay.
And there will be a press release as we're recording this at 11 o'clock. There will be a press release coming out.
So is this alright if I look at that?
Yeah, you can just look at me the whole time.
Okay.
And your first and last name?
My name is Ed Russell, and
Art.
I am a captain with the New York State Forest Rangers.
And how do you spell your last name?
Russell.
And Ed, normal spelling?
It's short for Edwin.
Okay, perfect. And I guess what can you tell us right now about the wildfire right now in Altona?
So we have a large number of people working on this fire at this point. We're estimated about 100 acres in size. It's burning in a jack pine or pitch pine type fuel with blueberries underneath, which is a pretty volatile fuel, especially this time of year. So we'll see some pretty good flame and smoke from this fire.
Obviously this isn't, like fighting a house fire like most of these crews are probably used to fighting. What kind of techniques are you using to put this out?
Our biggest technique right now is bulldozer line. So we are establishing control breaks in the vegetation type with bulldozers, with hand crew support, and with brush fire engine support. so that we make a wide area that can't burn. And we're starting on one side or two sides of the fire, working around the sides of the fire with the bulldozers.
Now, there obviously are not fire hydrants out in the forest like this. Where do you get your water from?
The trucks themselves are carrying water in. We're also using helicopters to do water drops, especially when the fire flares up on us. We're also using hand crews to support and create fire lines as well, and they may be carrying water with them. We'll have water drop sites at places so those engines don't have to come all the way back out to a hydrant or a water source here. And the helicopters are using ponds that are nearby.
Okay. How are the firefighters doing with the heat? It's obviously very hot today.
So not too bad so far, but it's just really starting. There's really a lot of reconnaissance going on to make sure we know exactly what the fire's doing. But the crews that are out there obviously are carrying water and other drinks to support them. The heat's not too bad yet, and there's a nice breeze. This afternoon will be a little bit rougher.
Do you have any idea how many people are actually out there fighting the fire?
I had a piece of paper to have with me. I think that we're about 65 or 70 at staff right now, but it's increasing. And here again, that's everybody, but that's increasing throughout the day.
And that's crews from New York, Vermont, and Canada, is that correct?
We do have some, four individuals from Quebec here today. There were some from Vermont yesterday. I'm not sure if they're back here today. We do have corrections. We do have local firefighters. We do have forest rangers all working on this, and maybe from some other agencies by the end of the day.
Okay. And do you have any idea how this fire might have started, or?
We don't have a good definitive answer for you on that right now. We have some information that came in from the initial firefighters. We have a couple of fire investigators on their way here to determine that.
Okay. I guess you're obviously hopeful that this is resolved sooner rather than later.
This will not be done today, and this won't be done tomorrow. A forest fire takes time. It's really, in many ways, not like the typical house fire, in that you don't just go in and take care of it in one shot. Some of the vegetation will burn for days, and that's even if it doesn't expand. And we expect with breezes like this today that we expect it will expand some. That's why I'm just saying it won't be done today.
But are there homes nearby?
There are no structures in danger right now. We do have a group whose job it is to evaluate that problem and to have a plan in place in case it were to get close to structures, but there's nothing in its path right now.
Anything you want the community to know?
There is going to be a lot of smoke off this fire, and so those people who are more prone to breathing problems or breathing problems, especially on exertion and with the heat today, they should stay in air-conditioned areas, indoors when possible, and not be working out where the smoke is going to bother them. That's pretty important.
Okay. And then one quick question, I just thought of this. We're in sort of a drought right now. We haven't had a whole lot of rain. Do you think that is maybe a factor in this fire?
Well, obviously weather is a huge factor with forest fires to start with, any kind of wildland fire. And so obviously the buildup of time that has gone by without rain certainly does affect this. Still, the vegetation is pretty green, but it is a vegetation that burns pretty easily even when it's green. The pitch in the pine and the oil in the blueberries all contributes to the fire.
Anything else you can think of?
I see that the Clinton County Emergency Services is here. Are they now answering to you? How's the hierarchy work on this?
So this is a unified command, and so Clinton County is here, Franklin County is supporting, Office of Emergency Management, Homeland Security are supporting, so we're working together. There is not a command, there is a unified command of the agencies.
Somebody has to call the final shot though, but who?
So the people that are in the command roles for especially operations right now are experienced forest rangers. Our operations section chief has gone out of state on fires numerous times, as well has been a forest ranger for New York State for a long time. So we have experienced people in those roles.
Fortunately, there hasn't been a lot of on-the-job opportunities in New York State, but there certainly has been to the out west, hasn't there?
That is generally true. We have hot years and not so hot years in New York, but you're right. The last couple of years have not been terribly difficult for within New York State. So our out-of-state program is important. But right now, we've got enough dry weather here. We probably won't be helping out anybody else until our weather changes a little bit.
How far is the fire from where we are right now?
I can't answer that question.
Okay.
I do not know that.
Okay.
It's not far,
Okay.
but
Within a couple miles.
Okay.
my guess. But
All right.
my guess would be closer to 5 miles, but I haven't looked at that on a map and I haven't been there yet.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Ed.
Thank you so much.
11:15, we've now made our way to the southern edge of the Brunel Road. We see a New York State Department of Corrections vehicle here. As Ed Russell mentioned, they mentioned the Department of Corrections. And we'll keep the camera rolling as we walk. As I apologize for all the jumpy footage we've shown here. It's trying to show everything at once, and we sometimes jump around, and of course when we walk we bounce, so the camera bounces. Part of their community work release supervised work. I believe there will be some inmates from the local facility here helping contain this fire, so that's where the Department of Corrections comes in, I believe. So this is an active road here. This is as I said, the southern end. This little area here is actually apparently the snowplow turnaround. We Googled and got an aerial view of this. This family that lives at the end of the road here had some unexpected company yesterday, and they seem to accept it in a friendly manner. I'm not sure what our status is, how far away from the actual fire we are today. I hear a chopper in that direction. Apparently must be far enough away or low enough that I'm not going to be able to see it. The coal is still here today. Another Department of Corrections vehicle. It's 11:20 right now, and we're going to find out what we can find out. There's tankers here. They'll continue to bring in water for the guys fighting it on the ground, I would assume. As we get set to walk in, we'll take another look. Here's a van that they would have transported some of those inmates in with. But you got to have lots of clearance in your vehicle and some sturdy tires if you're going to try to drive through here. Talking to off the record to some of the firefighters, they said they pretty much shut down last night after when it got dark, and fortunately the fire didn't continue to spread uncontested. It obviously is continuing to spread, but we're not seeing the big high clouds that we saw yesterday. So we'll walk in, and if we find something that looks interesting, we'll put the camera on. We might walk for 2.5 to 3 miles and not put the camera on at all. But I did look at the Google Maps, and there's a whole lot of area to the south of where that fire is burning, and heading out a little closer to the Flat Rock area. And from the aerial view, there are acres and acres of land between here and the $1 million dam. that we couldn't see any trees at all. All we could see is this kind of stuff. And this is the kind of stuff that we saw yesterday that was burning in the area where we walked in, where the fires had taken place. The trees, for the most part, were still standing, and it's all the undergrowth that had burned. So there's areas and areas out there, acres and acres of just plain undergrowth. Here comes the vehicle coming out. That's the tanker. It must be coming back to fill up so they can go back and fill up for the guys with the four-wheelers. So they'll fill up that tank and then head back to their station up this way.
Fun.
I intend to. They get into a particularly high area here. Have to take their time going over these rocks. As you can see, when they got a load of water, they're scraping bottom here. There's another vehicle coming through. They just drove out, now they're coming right back in. Probably fill up the cooler with water. It was slow going for them, but that truck with the water tank on the back gradually made its way through here. There's a drop off right here, and a large rock here, and another drop on the other side of it. We've traveled a long distance and have come to another area with one of those vans from Corrections and Community Service. We're hearing chatter in this direction. It might be somebody bringing in a bulldozer from that direction. I'm seeing some yellow hats and firefighters ahead of us here. So I know one of the strategies is to make a perimeter where it's safe from burning. So the noise I'm hearing in this direction is I'd say basically to the east. As we look at the noonday sun here, it's 11:43. So that would be the generally easterly direction. And as we said, you can see bulldozer work having done here, and people with hard hats. We're not going to be able to go any further due to safety concerns, but we did want to get a shot of this chopper coming in with a load of water to attack the fire. We've walked back several hundred yards since we took that last picture. We really want to get a shot of this. And this might be the last shots we get today of this area. So we are back to the edge of the Brunel Road, and that's as far as we're going to be able to go today. The forest ranger who walked with us on our way out said we should alert people not to wander in here. So don't, I know probably every kid in Altona has been through this area more than once. Every kid and past kid. But they've got to do their job, and they want to know who's out here at a given time. So let the forest rangers and Department of Corrections and environmental conservationists and emergency services, let them all do their work, and hopefully this won't be a long range event, and maybe in a couple of days I'll be able to get a guided tour of what the final destruction looked like here at Altona. That's going to wrap it up for Friday the 13th. Time is just about noon. As we're driving out on the Brunel Road, we noticed a vehicle turning around, now another one turning around. Looked like a lineup heading for that staging area, but doesn't look like that's what's going to happen here. Not sure what they are doing. There's South Plattsburgh, there's Morrisonville. I think the first one was an Altona one, I'm not sure. This one is also making a wide turn, so. And there's a tanker. I would think he'd be heading for that staging area. We'll see. Nope, he's making the turn too. So we thought we'd get a little firefighters parade here, but that ain't gonna happen. Again, we're on the Brunel Road. I've got my off-camera mic plugged in. And the smoke is arising again here. It's now about 12:04 on this Friday the 13th. We're hoping that the camera will pick it up. It's not overly dark, but certainly we can tell that there's a dark plume going up there, and the fire has spread out in width. We see white smoke in that area. We are located about 10 miles or so or more from that area as the crow flies, as we mentioned before. But it definitely has spread as far as the width of the fire. And I'm sure part of that is the plan as they work around that perimeter. And this is at this point in time, obviously at 12:25 here on the 13th, it's obviously the final chapter has not been written on this story. Whether or not we'll be able to get in for more video footage of the firefighters in action, time will tell. Obviously they have concerns about their own safety, and they don't need to be concerned about other folks roaming around. So we're going to close with this shot of the rising smoke in the Altona forest fire. July 13th, 2018, this will end this particular chapter. 11:20 in the morning of July 14th, 2018, Bastille Day. And we see a Forest Ranger truck go by. We are in front of Feinberg Park. The McGregor Powerhouse is just that away, and it's very smoky. And as we point toward the Berto Road, Old State Road area up on the curve there, we're on Devil's Den Road, of course. Still looks very smoky up there. It's 11:20 or so. Channel 3 WCAX did a nice little report from this location yesterday. When we shut our cameras off yesterday, we headed home. Didn't come back here to the fire station area or around here. In fact, shortly after we got back home, we could, a personal note, we could hardly walk. Our right heel really flared up, and I needed to get off my feet after walking probably within a 24-hour period, probably walking 5 miles or 4 to 5 miles on those uneven rocks on the Flat Rock area where we were. The helicopters are grounded. We briefly saw one of the helicopters fly over when we were on our way out from that location. For the moment, they are grounded, so I hope that is a good sign. There's one there, and there's one here, and as we drove by, my wife and I drove by, one of the people from the helicopter was showing to some of the youngsters who were in the area, probably some from just across the road or whatever, who came across, and they were showing them what the helicopter looked like. Looks like they're having a lunch break of some sort, and we'll try to find out what's going on. We may or may not stop at that area. There's still a beehive of activity at the fire station, so we may go there next, but this is what the ballpark looks like. If you've played any youth sports in the Northern Tier, chances are you have played here at Feinberg Park at one time or another. And we do have a view of McGregor Dam. That was very much a highlight of last summer, and they gave tours there last summer, and the history of William H. Minor and McGregor Dam and the LaSalle Dam and the McGregor Powerhouse and all that good stuff. So, as we said, we're on the Devil's Den Road, and we're going to try to find out more about what's happening. We were heading, speaking of William H. Minor, we're heading for the Minor Farm, Minor Institute. We're going to be there in an hour and a half from now, so we thought we'd stop here first. They've got an event going on at the farm, and we're going to be heading there today, but we did want to do a little update here on this July 14th, 2018. When we came out of Feinberg Park, we decided to turn right first because I know this fella here, he's walking away from me now as I got the camera rolling, has seen a flood or two over the years. Yeah, but
true.
What's your name, young fella?
Lionel Perrier.
Lionel Perrier. Now, there's at least 7 or 8 Perriers in Altona, aren't there?
Oh, there's 9 of us in this family. All ball players, too.
All sons of Tuffield?
Yep. Tuffield and Florence.
You're right here by the road here, where the water comes through and so on. Are you old enough, Lionel, to remember the 57 incident? Or?
I was 4 years old.
4 years old. So.
Yeah. And
I was 10.
that came right up behind my father's farm. I lived right up the road right there.
Yeah.
And there was a barn there, and it came right up behind the barn. And they had evacuated us out. We were kids, and we had to go to Peru to my grandmother's. So
over 2,000 acres, according to what the newspapers back then said.
There was that much? Gee.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I guess they got quite a few acres today down there.
Yeah, well, last I heard yesterday, 368. I don't know how they can get it down to 68 instead of 370.
Well, they must have a way of doing it. So.
Yeah, so I won't argue with them because I don't have an estimate.
Me neither.
So have you been bothered much here? I see a lot of hazy smoke this morning, and it looks like it
smells like bacon.
Smells like bacon?
Yeah.
Who's this guy?
This is my grandson, Keaton Perrier.
And
And this is my granddaughter, Erica Perrier.
All right.
Grandpa,
And
are we gonna be on TV?
oh, you
Oh, yeah.
never know.
It might happen. You
Yeah.
keep your fingers crossed.
Other news one didn't show us.
The other news didn't show you? Oh, wow. That,
They were interviewed on the other one, and it didn't come on TV.
oh, they keep the best for later. So you haven't had too much?
No, this is yesterday. It was a little hazier, but today it was beautiful, and now it's starting to cloud. Must be picking back up again or something,
Yeah, or the
or they're
smoke is
working it up.
drifting. Yeah. I was quite surprised. Of course, with the overcast skies, it's tough to get a long-range view of what it might look like. But I was quite surprised and quite pleased.
Yeah.
We got a little rain overnight, but not enough to.
No, it dampened it though. It did a good job.
It didn't hurt, but,
No, that's for sure.
you know. And
Yesterday, if you'd have been here, you'd have seen a lot of helicopters flying.
Yeah,
I'll tell you that.
I wasn't here, but I was up on the end of the Brunel Road, and I saw some flying in there. But when I left there, it was time to head back, so I didn't come up this way, and I wish I had, but I didn't.
Well, all the kids need memories, and this will be a memory for these young kids.
Yeah, and
You know.
if it doesn't get any worse than it has,
Right.
then it won't be too bad.
We'll be picking blueberries in 2 years.
That's one of the positive offshoots of when this kind of thing happens.
Yeah, they say that, and it takes this heat for the jack pines crack their seeds or
Well,
something.
it actually takes the fire. What
Yeah,
Ken
and-
Adams told us years ago. That
Yeah.
it takes the fire to pop those seeds. But as long as those little things pop, doesn't matter how they pop, because just the trucks running over them. I was talking to some people from Minor Farm, and they said where the heavy equipment came in after the ice storm, that area has grown a lot because they ran over those
Yep.
seeds and they popped out, and
Yep.
so you know.
It's actually a mess up in there too. Ever since that big windstorm and that was it Irene that went through, a lot of trees are
2011,
down and a lot of
2011,
brush are down, and it was perfect thing for a fire. I'll tell you that.
Yep.
It's sad to see it come though, because it's a good recreation spot for the four-wheelers and skidooers, and
Well,
we try to all maintain it good, but you have the little ones that don't maintain, and it makes it hard on everybody else. So
it's a slow ride too.
yes, it is very nice ride.
But slow.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of
Oh yeah,
ups and downs. And,
it's a long ways from here to West Jay-Z across there.
And as I was thinking when I was going through there, there's probably nobody or very few people who've grown up in Altona who haven't ventured back there and know that like the back of their hand probably.
Well, I think years ago, yeah, but there's so many new people in town here. About 2 weeks ago, we went up there, and there was this young guy walking with his daughter, about 3 years old, and he was totally lost. And we set him straight back on the trail, and apparently he must have came out and got back to his truck. He's gone, but he was totally lost up there, and he was thinking about he was going to end up in Shazy Lake, and I said no. I said Minor Lake is off to the right here a long ways yet, 5 miles. I said, but I said you're a long ways from Shazy Lake.
And heading in the wrong direction.
So I don't think he knew too much about the rock, and if you don't know a lot about it, it's grown up so bad that you got to pay attention on all the little side roads.
Yeah. Well, hopefully this is the start of the end. That it looks like it. They've definitely made some improvements. You said there's a lot of choppers going through here yesterday.
Oh yeah, there was a couple of them big Black Hawks there. They landed, and they'd pick up water at the Minor Dam up there, and they'd shove it across. And then today I was reading in the paper they actually got water out of the Dead Sea up there, and I didn't think they could get low enough to get it, but apparently they could.
Apparently they did.
Yeah.
Drop those buckets down and,
Yeah,
and pick it up.
there's some awesome drivers in them things.
Yeah.
I watched them come around. One time I thought they were going to collide, and they just, I don't know, they maneuvered around each other. And
They know what they're doing. Huh?
oh yeah, they do. Yeah.
All right. So it entertained the grandkids, did it? Yesterday?
Oh yeah. We had to go over there 100 times on the bike and watch them land and take off, and right.
Well, you're making memories.
Yeah. You want to say hi to Mom and Dad?
Hi.
There you go.
You?
Hi.
Hi, all right.
This one here become we'll always remember this day because my son just had a little boy
Oh,
yesterday. So
oh.
it was
Today.
Today.
early this morning, 2 o'clock this morning.
2 o'clock this morning.
So
You got a baby brother you haven't seen yet?
yeah.
You know his name yet?
Brian Jr.
Brian Jr. What's your father's name?
Brian.
Checking it out, eh?
All right, Lionel.
All right,
Anything
nice
else?
seeing you.
All right, take care.
No, there ain't too much going on.
All right, thank you. We've made our way inside the fire station and we are talking to
Vanessa Thompson.
Vanessa. I see other Thompsons are here too.
Yep.
Is this a Thompson function
It's
here?
starting to be, yep. That's my uncle and my aunt.
Okay, I saw them here yesterday when I was here, so I know they've been helping out.
We've been here since Friday night, yep.
Now, is this a auxiliary? Altona?
Yep, we're Altona Fire Department Auxiliary, made up of men and women, so not ladies anymore.
No, not just ladies auxiliary. I see Jeanette Labarge over there. I talked to her grandsons, and he said there's 3 generations of them involved in the
Yes, there is.
in the department. So, donations. You've been getting a lot of
We
help.
have had an outpouring of donations coming from all over the place. Great help from Mountain Mart in Moores, Jeannie Bushy, and D&D Meats in Scioto, Shane Dutel, Sharon and Adrian. Shane's been coming up to cook for us 5 o'clock in the morning for the guys and girls to get breakfast sandwiches out. Jeannie's been making salads and bringing us cold meat so we can make fresh sandwiches to get them out to the guys. Numerous people from all over Vermont, all the way out as far as Keysville, Allenburg, been coming in, bringing Powerade, water, gum, all sorts of donations to keep the guys and girls going.
Now you're here today on the Saturday, and this of course started 2 days ago, just about now 48 hours ago. Are you got people here around the clock, or how does that work?
Well, we came in Thursday night and left about midnight. Friday morning we came in at 5 a.m., pretty much stayed here all day, took care of the guys' breakfast, lunch, and dinner. About 9 o'clock they come out of the woods and take a break, go home, and we're back at it at 5 a.m.
I know when I was leaving the Brunel Road on Thursday, they brought in cases of water and said some woman had just stopped in and donated them. When I was leaving, the sandwiches arrived. So you've been feeding the people out in the field, so they haven't necessarily had to come here. You've been sending food out to them.
Food out there, yep. Yeah. Just like today, we're making meatball subs that has been generously donated. The meatballs, we cook them, we're sending them out so that they don't have just the same old bologna and ham. Yesterday was hamburgers and hot dogs, today is meatball subs, and of course we do have the bologna and ham and peanut butter and jelly.
How much of staff do you have besides the 3 Thompsons?
We are a small auxiliary. I think we have 17 members. Probably about 6 of them are able to actually help us today. We have some great help from Champlain Fire Department Auxiliary also has come up, prepping tonight's dinner. We have a lady from South Plattsburgh Auxiliary. She's up here helping. Okay. So it's been an outpouring of help. Ross's Point offered to come up, auxiliary. Moores.
So it's kind of like a mutual aid for the auxiliary.
Yes. We've had numerous people willing to come up and help us out.
Any idea how many people you have fed?
Well, we make 100 breakfast sandwiches in the morning, and we send out, they just told me right now we're going to be feeding 185 people for lunch.
Feeding 185.
Feeding 185 people for lunch.
And some of these are probably hungry.
And some of these guys are probably hungry. Very hungry. They've been out there since 7 o'clock this morning.
At this stage, this is shortly after noon on Saturday. What have you heard about what's happening?
I have not heard anything.
You just keep,
I just get told to feed them, and that's what I do.
All right. I see Ellen Montgomery's back there, too. And
Yep, Ellen's up there. We have Jeanette Labarge. Some of the girls were here this morning. Tressa Waite, she had to go to work, so Katie Waite was here this morning. My daughter comes up and helps out. She's 11. She's here somewhere right now.
All right, so we'll let you get back to work. We appreciate you taking time out, and keep up the good work.
All right, thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Bye.
Bye. As you might expect, it's very hectic, very fluid here, you can use that word, ongoing situation with, we've had some people that would chat with us, and all of a sudden they are pulled away to handle something else that's more important than talking to Hometown Cable. It is our intent, when all is said and done, all the dust is settled, that we would come back here and do a wrap-up. And one of the people we're going to do a wrap-up with is this fellow here. What's your name, young fella?
Eric Day.
Eric Day. I've seen you here right from day one, if I can use the word day one.
Day
What's
one,
Eric
yep.
Day?
Yep, came up Thursday afternoon, right when the thing kicked off.
You were one of the guys that was preventing Greg Spinner from talking to me, because you and him and Chris and a whole bunch of other guys were awfully busy.
That's right. Early on there, a few of us really busy trying to get resources in and try to get a hit on the fire early.
Yeah, it's certainly nothing that you've had to put up with it to this extent in the recent past.
Yeah, absolutely not. Certainly not in my career here at the county. This is the biggest wildland or forest fire we've had in my time.
See some folks all the way from Essex County here.
Yeah, corrections.
Yeah.
Corrections crew.
And Mr. Stahl coming in.
Yep.
Yeah, corrections. I saw at least 3 or 4 of these vehicles yesterday, so they're helping out.
We had crews yesterday, and then they're back again today helping out on the fire line.
That includes some from Altona here?
I don't know if there's an
No?
Altona crew here or not.
Okay. So
I believe there's most from the Mariah Shock facility.
okay, I didn't know if some of those were from Altona, because I know last year when they were working up at the McGregor Dam, they wandered over here from there.
Had crew, yeah.
So this might be more people that are in tune to this type of thing. As they're saying, a type of thing that you don't have to put up with very often in our area.
No,
and I don't think you were around in 1957, were you?
I wasn't here in 1957. We had a couple of fires on the Flat Rock 8-9 years ago, but nothing to this extent. I mean, this has grown to be quite a fire.
I hear a chopper in the air again, so that they are going to be continuing with the drops. I hear. Is that your understanding?
Yeah, that's my understanding. That they've still got a couple of helicopters. Here he is coming right there. Going to go right over top. They're probably going to initiate aviation operations again, and would mean probably dropping water again. They had to hold off on that this morning with the weather, but it's breaking here for that.
Has there been a problem that because once it gets dark, you don't want your people out there? Has there been a problem overnight, during the overnight hours, when you weren't able to have too many people out there?
Well, you're right. In the darkness, out in the woods, rough terrain, rugged territory, and access is tough. It's really not safe to be out there working. So the crews were pulled off in the evening, 8-9 o'clock, and brought back in, debriefed, and then the plan is laid out for the next day. The forest rangers, however, they do keep a small crew that monitors the fire throughout the night, but suppression activities are held off overnight in the dark.
Yeah, and the forest rangers are used to being out in the forest theoretically
yeah,
at night.
Yeah. So there's a small crew of them that they'll patrol it and look for any places where things are really moving or jumping ahead that need to be addressed in the morning. But of course, it's certainly grown overnight in the last 2 nights, but it's expected with the type of fuel that's out there and the weather we've had and the fact that it's just so dry.
Yeah, the fuel you're talking about is all that undergrowth that's just ankle high, but burns like heck.
Burns like heck, and then of course the jack pine trees that are in there, they burn pretty well too when it's dry.
Yeah. The weather reports I've heard from the local stations said we're an inch low. Well, I think up here in the northern tier we're more than an inch low. I'm not sure where. We've had a lot of storms that came in south of Plattsburgh that didn't reach up here.
Yeah,
a lot of rain that didn't fall
didn't get so much water up here. I was actually up in the woods on Thursday, and it's dry. It's dry up there.
So it might be an inch low in the Plattsburgh area, but I'm darn sure it's a couple inches behind where it should be up here in the northern tier.
And of course, the the makeup of the Flat Rock area
Yeah.
is an arid area anyway. It's dry naturally. Even when it does rain, what things that's growing up there are soaking it up fast, and the rest of it seeps through the rock.
Yeah.
So there's no soil there to hold any moisture.
Yeah, so it's an area that is actually, if you were going to design it, you would design it for fires, because that's what the blueberries and the jack pines thrive on.
They
is
thrive.
the fire. So,
Yep. Rejuvenate every so often.
So when nature designed it, that's what they had in mind.
There'll be some good blueberry picking after this.
That's the story. Yeah. Now I know I was talking off camera to Greg Spinner, the fire chief here, and he said right now he's sharing the responsibilities with the forest rangers. What's the official title of the forest service that's here?
So the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation Forest Rangers.
That's a lot of words.
Yeah, a lot of words. A lot of agencies have big names. There's a bunch of different agencies here from the state. The Forest Rangers being the lead agency when it comes to dealing with forest fires.
Obviously,
that's their thing. They're supported by the State Office of Fire Prevention and Control, the Division of Homeland Security and Emergency Services, the State Office of Emergency Management, the New York State Police. All of them come together and fulfill roles that are managing the larger response. So there are forest rangers in the woods working with local firefighters, DOT dozer operators, some local contract dozer operators from the towns, Altona, Moores. We got the town of Malone's got a dozer here. I think the town of Franklin. Those folks are out in the field doing the work, and then it takes a lot of people. The more people we put in the field, it takes more people back here to organize what's going on today and plan for what's happening tomorrow. The forest rangers are the lead agency, and one of their members is designated as a co-incident commander with Greg Spinner, the fire chief from Altona. So they are fulfilling what we call unified command. So the two lead agencies unified together, making the ultimate decisions with the whole staff under them that are feeding them information based on what's being seen in the field, what we know, what's happening. Is the fire changing? Is the wind blowing a different direction? Are we bringing more people in? Are we sending people home today? That kind of thing.
now at a normal thing, and let's look at Thursday until the forest rangers arrive. Clinton County Emergency Services was there. You were there, and Chris, and a whole bunch of other people. But it's the local fire chief who's still in charge, even though it's the Clinton County people that are on hand.
Absolutely, and that works. In New York State being a home rule state, and the way our mutual aid system works, the local fire chief is the authority having jurisdiction when there's a fire call in his territory or her territory. Our office will come in at their request to provide assistance with anything they might need. Primarily it's coordinating the mutual aid, which we've got that down pretty well in the county because we do it a lot these days.
Yeah, because you got fewer and fewer firefighters, and you need that mutual aid
we
more than ever.
need more and more help. The Altona Fire Chief, Greg, was in charge. Actually, I think it was his first assistant chief initially because Greg was at work in Plattsburgh. But then he got up on scene and has been kind of at the top of the food chain right along with locally us supporting him and whatever he needs. And then of course as the state moves their resources in, the operation gets a lot bigger.
So like Franklin County is here. Was that been something that you would have called in, or the state? How does that work?
Yeah, we asked yesterday early for Franklin County to help us with not only some units to actually fight the fire, some manpower and brush trucks. We've got a couple of larger trucks, tankers, and engines around that are actually covering for Altona today because the Altona guys are out working in the woods. But Ricky Provost over in Franklin County, my counterpart, offered their command trailer. So we're using that as office space for some of the planning staff, and our brothers in arms from the Hogansburg-Akwesasne Fire Department have a command truck. They brought that over as well, and
the state police have The New York State.
Yeah,
Fire
that's the
Prevention
state fire's got
Control.
theirs. So the whole incident command system.
So
So
there's a horseshoe right there.
there's an incident commander, but under that person there's a number of people that have filled desks. One called the operations section chief, one called logistics section, the finance section, and the planning section. And then those people each have a number of people working for them. 2 or 3 times a day, we'll have meetings where those folks come together, but the rest of the time they separate off and work in their own and order resources, plan for tomorrow's operation, work with the auxiliary and whatnot and the facilities here to make sure that things are here that are needed, like everything from porta-johns to generators for power, communications, the State Office of Emergency and Interoperable Communications. That's the biggest mouthful in state agencies that I use. They arrived yesterday afternoon and set up a couple of temporary antenna masts for some radios to improve communication here. I mean, we have good communication within the county. The rangers, the state agencies that come in, more people, more radios, so they need to improve that here at their site. So they've came in and brought some radio systems. A big effort, a lot of people and a lot of coordination, but it's working.
I know it was before your time. I don't think we've seen an operation this large in the North Country since the ice storm 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's certainly, and I think that's certainly probably bigger than this. But you're right, we haven't had something of this size in since then. We've had some big fires. The Comfort Inn was a big fire. We had a lot of fire trucks there, but that was wrapped up in a couple of days.
Right.
We had a similar, I guess I would say a similar sized operation to this, not a fire, but the search in Ellenburg last year for Munn Boardman. A lot of the same folks that are here today were doing the same jobs we were doing back last Thanksgiving up there.
Actually, two
Thanksgivings ago. Yeah, that's right, 2 years ago now. Yeah. A similar sized operation, and actually, we might have had a couple of days up there. We might have had more people in the woods than we do here. We're covering a lot of area that week.
Yeah, and they weren't complaining about the heat when that was going on.
No, heat wasn't an issue. It was cold. The last couple of days of that, it was real cold and snowy. It was miserable. But yeah, the big incidents like this don't happen a lot here, and then we're fortunate for that to be the case. That's right.
Okay, well, as I was saying before you came out, when this is all the dust is settled and the ashes have settled, we'd like to do a recap on this. Is there anything else that you think we should talk about right now, Eric? You're busy.
No, I think it's good. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate everything you do documenting this stuff and everything else you document. It's awesome that you do it.
Just glad to be able to do this kind of stuff, and my feet weren't glad yesterday after walking in and out of that flat rock yesterday.
I watched that video last night. I'm like, oh, he went way up there. Yeah, it's rough terrain. It's rough, and that was a road you were on.
Yeah, right. That was the main road.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Eric.
You're welcome.
Appreciate
Thank you.
All right,
We'll
take
catch
care.
you later.
All righty. The afternoon of Monday, July 16th, 2018, and we're at Steinberg Ballpark in Altona. Just saw a helicopter drive by with a water bucket. This area has brought in a lot of tourists and curiosity seekers in the last several days. They're still set up here. And as we went by the fire department, there were still as many, if not more, vehicles there than when we were last here on Saturday. The early morning report of Sunday, which would have been pretty much the wrap-up for Saturday, said 177 personnel were taking part, and they had a 40% containment of the Altona forest fire on the Flat Rock, and 526 acres had been impacted. On Sunday evening, which is yesterday, they reported 212 personnel and 65% containment, and still the 526 acres. So I'm assuming this chopper here is some kind of a reconnaissance chopper that's going to go up there and get some kind of a view so they can evaluate the situation. We're going to head to the fire station and see if there'll be any kind of an update at 4 o'clock on the Altona Flat Rock forest fire of 2018. As we said, we're hoping for a update shortly. This is a very recent map generated at 3:31:14 p.m. It's 3:54 or 3:53 right now. The symbols on here, the shaded area is a fire area. The checks are a completed dozer line. 2 track roads, safety zone, lookout, division break, heli spot, Flat Rock, heli base, drop point, and ICP, whatever all those other things mean. We do know what the dozer line is. The Devil's Den Road is over here. The Rock Road is over here. And I'm guessing that the end of the Brunel Road is somewhere over here. And Brunel Road is where we came down initially. Well, it could be over in this way, this area, blocked out. So this is the acreage that is currently considered the fire zone. There's only a small area that is considered fire zone that is outside that dozer line. And I assume this is a north-south configuration. So hopefully we'll have some update on this very, very shortly. Okay, we first of all want to correct this map is wrong. Had me confused that where it says Rock Road is really the Brunel Road, so that's where we started our coverage back on Thursday, and we're now going to listen to this press briefing.
I, David Russell, Incident Commander. I'm speaking on behalf of the Joint Incident Commanders for the Flat Rock Fire. Would like to let everybody know that today we have 65% of the Flat Rock Fire contained. It has grown to 526 acres, and to this date we have approximately 190 firefighters on the fire today. That includes firefighters from Franklin County, Clinton County, Essex County, and multiple state and even our federal partners with the Air National Guard on scene today. We have firefighters working on both sides of this fire. They're working to mop up. So we have our control lines in place. Those are where the bulldozers have gone through and taken away all the flammable material all the way down to the bedrock in this area. They've removed all the flammable vegetation, and now crews are starting to mop up, put out anything that is smoking within 100 feet of those control lines. And today we also have in our western edge, we have all of that area that has not had a line on it, now has containment lines on it. They're improving those containment lines, meaning the bulldozers have gone through, completed a control line around the entire fire, and now our hand crews are going in making sure all the vegetation is removed and burning out any vegetation that remains in between where the fire edge is and where our control lines are.
Okay, now you were telling me before off camera that this little area up in the corner here by the end of the Brunel Road is actually you did some what do we call back burning there?
Yep. So going back to Friday, this is the second day of the fire. When we had a wind shift, the fire was burning north and to the west towards the structures at the top of the fire, as it's indicated on this map, on the Brunel Road. So on Friday, at that time, we moved from active fire suppression, trying to build dozer lines, to simply going and protecting these structures by putting in a bulldozer line around the structures, and then we used a technique called burnout. We actually lit the fire from the control lines that we made so that the fire was smaller, more controlled, while the fire was burning towards us at 40, 60 foot flame lengths. We set our fire so that the fire was smaller, contained, and that more intense fire met it so that it was not up against our control lines.
Now you said it's 65%. That's pretty much where it stood yesterday, but I assume you're even though the percentage hasn't changed, you are continuing to make progress.
Yep. So what we can consider our percentage contained is not only that we have a line around it, but that line has been secured by putting out anything that is smoldering, anything that is smoking 100 feet within the fire edge. So that's where we come up with our percent contained.
I know in getting back there on Thursday, there were areas that were burned out, and there were still little pockets of soldering smoke. So that's the type of thing that you would make sure is extinguished. Any danger of this is a flat rock area. There might be vegetation that's in the crevices and so on in the rock. Any danger of any of that spreading underground, sort of?
No danger of spreading underground. When I talk about our bulldozers creating a fire break, they're taking away everything all the way down to that bare rock. And if we are not certain, our hand crews are following that up, working with shovels, tools, rakes to scrape any flammable material, any soil, any black dirt, anything like that away from it, so it's straight down to bare rock.
I saw the noon news. It showed some rain coming in tomorrow, but once again, it looked like most of it's going to be to the south of us, but there will be a little rain here. I imagine a couple hours of rain wouldn't hurt your efforts at all, would it?
Yep. We just got briefed. We're expecting the rain to begin early in the AM hours and continue through the day. We're having any estimates between 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch here specifically at our fire site, and those numbers could increase if we get heavier rains in the thunderstorms.
Okay, after you're in a situation where you would consider it contained, do you still stick around for a couple of days to make sure? I know, looking at the news reports from 61 years ago, in 1957, there was a couple of times when they thought it was out, and it didn't work out that way. Of course, firefighting, like everything else, has come a long way since then, but will you stick around for another 24 hours or so just to keep surveying the situation and monitoring it?
Absolutely, even longer than that. The progression that we go through is contained, mop up, patrol. And we've already had discussions, but we will be patrolling this fire to ensure that it does not go beyond our control lines well after we call this fire 100% contained, which we are not there yet.
Okay, and so it's still at, was it 526 acres?
Still at 526 acres.
Okay, anything else that we should know about?
Sure. Our partners with the Air National Guard, along with New York State Police helicopters, continue to aid the firefighting efforts by dropping Bambi buckets of water from the bottom of the helicopters. To this date, they've dropped over 150,000 gallons of water. That will increase as they are working today as well. I'd also like to mention our community support. We have, obviously, our volunteer firefighters from those companies. We thank them for not only giving up their weekend, but now some of them are taking days off of work to be here to help with the firefighting efforts. Our community at large here in Altona and the Clinton County community and our surrounding North Country community has been very supportive from donations of water and food, from simple waves and hellos, and their support from social media. We certainly thank them for our firefighting efforts and their support of us.
I was just talking to one of the volunteers inside, and she said that as they were feeding some guys yesterday, they left and said thank you, and she said, no, thank you. And that's pretty much been the attitude around here, that people understand and appreciate what you guys are doing.
Absolutely. We as firefighters know that we cannot do it alone. We cannot do it by ourselves. We can't be everywhere at once, so we need the support to keep us watered, to keep us fed. And even though we're out there in the field, we can't do it without the support of everyone involved with this incident.
Yeah, and, I was just inside the station here, and there's all kinds of beverages and water and soda and Gatorade type of drinks, energy drinks, and food still being brought in on a regular basis. So even though it's 3 or 4 days old, it hasn't gotten old as far as the community and these volunteers are concerned.
Absolutely. It's still fresh in everyone's mind because they see us on the roads, they see our trucks, they see our fire engines, they see the helicopters in the air, and they smell it and see the smoke. So this is still fresh in everyone's mind.
And every time that wind just feel like it just shifted. Every time that wind shifts, you guys must be regrouping every time, I imagine.
You need to be a firefighter because every time that wind shifts, I feel it too, and I look over my shoulder to see if there's any smoke in the air or what's going on. But yes, we're very mindful of all the conditions, fuels, weather, topography that can affect fire behavior.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Sit here because
The camera starts and people start running away. This guy looks.
What are they, afraid of you?
I don't. Yeah, well, a lot of people are. Yeah, for different reasons.
Yeah.
But you're not one of them. What's your name?
No,
What's your
Kelly
name?
Donahue.
Yeah, what are yours? What's your title here, Kelly Donahue?
My normal title is Assistant Director of Emergency Services for Clinton County. My title today is Clinton County Agency Representative for the operation for Flat Rock incident.
All right, so you're still working for the Clinton County, though.
Oh, absolutely. Yep. So normally when individuals respond to an incident, your normal day-to-day title is not always how or what you will be doing for an incident. You could be in command, you could be in as someone going to get the food or the water, doing the logistics stuff. So your everyday normal title is not always what you may operate during an incident.
Okay, so you've got your computer here. I'll take a quick look at it, very quick though, so I don't want people to know what's on that computer. But so what type of stuff are you doing here, and could it have been done in Plattsburgh?
Well, we've been
obviously on hand makes it a lot more personal, and you're able to get a feel.
Absolutely. The Office of Emergency Services is always involved when there's a large-scale incident or response. And so Eric, being the director, may be pulled in to do something, and I may be pulled in to do something. We have our other deputies that have been assisting the incident throughout since Thursday, the activation of the incident. And so we basically, my role today is ultimately trying to get resources from our county, as well as request Essex and Franklin County and the Canadian counties, fire departments that we have in our mutual aid system in Vermont. Altona can't do it alone. One fire department, when they have a large-scale incident like this, can't do it alone. So Chief Spinner, under the guidance and coordination of the efforts of the state, are doing a good job in trying to snuff the fire out, so to speak, be the bear, and Smokey the Bear, and snuff the fire out. And it's a monumental task. It's certainly a large-scale event. We haven't had this in years on the Flat Rock, and this has always been the fear, and the conditions have been ripe, and here we are. So we need a lot of resources to be able to assist the operation. So
I think the people in 1957 would have loved to have been as prepared as you people are, but as I've mentioned several times during the coverage of this, that over 2,000 acres were lost in 1957, and a couple of times they thought they had the fire out, and lo and behold, it flared up again. So in talking to Mr. Russell there a few minutes ago, they're making darn sure that everywhere they go, the fire is out. So this type of thing that you would do at any large event,
Right.
fire,
I
or
may
a
be asked to-
lost person in the woods like we had a year and a half ago? Or?
Sure. Yep. I may be asked to facilitate in getting resources that may be necessary. And in our agency, as a county representative, we are at the whims of the incident commander and do whatever's asked.
So, and obviously being here on site is more important and easier to access you, and you can access this stuff immediately, so they haven't got to try to reach you in Plattsburgh or wherever you might be. So.
Right. Yep.
All right. Anything else, Kelly, that I should
No,
ask you?
no, I don't think so.
All right.
Calvin, as always, thank you for helping the public be informed. I think you've always done a great job for our community, and so thank you.
All right. Well, thank you,
Remember,
Kelly.
support Calvin.
Kelly does. We'll do one final sweep around the driveway here as we hit the road, unless we find somebody in our travels that we feel we must talk to. We'll wrap up this July 16th coverage of the Altona Flat Rock Fire. A lot of the same faces we're seeing here that have been here volunteering since day one, and some of them aren't 30 years old, so you got to appreciate everyone who helps out, and you give a little special nod to the people who've been doing it for many, many decades. So this will be our look at the July 16th fire on the Altona Flat Rock. It's approaching 3:45, quarter of 4 on Tuesday, the 17th day of July 2018. Calvin Castine back in Altona for an update, and this will probably be the final chapter we do before we do a final recap after this fire is put out. Of course, we're here to cover the Altona Flat Rock Fire that's been burning since last Thursday. This is our 5th installment, and it's the 6th day. A fire station here just off the Devil's Den Road is still lined with visiting fire apparatus from throughout the Northeast, from Franklin County and throughout Clinton County, and I'm not sure if the Vermont and southern Quebec departments still have any presence here or not. We drove by the Feinberg Ballpark, which is in that direction, before coming here, and the choppers that have been camped there for the past several days are no longer there. We're assuming that they're continuing to haul water out of Minor Lake. We drove by there, didn't see any activity, but that the helicopter's going back and forth. We don't necessarily have to see something while we're driving by. Roads have been blocked along the Brunel Road by the state troopers, and also the Berto Road, so access has been denied for several days to the general public. As we said, we're hoping this will wrap up as far as the people watching on hometown cable in this particular episode. It's going to be a 2-hour plus episode altogether. This will wrap up this first portion, and the next time we do something, it'll be probably showing that the results of the completion of their efforts here, or very near the completion. The latest report we got this morning about 10 a.m. was that the fire was now considered to be 75% contained. If you see a little water puddle here and there, we did get some rain, but not a lot, so I don't think the weatherman helped all that much. 11:31 a.m. is the date on this time, I should say, on this latest report. This map is a little better than what we saw yesterday. It is showing the Brunel Road. Yesterday it was kind of indicated that it was the Rock Road, which was wrong, but it's a Brunel Road. If you're coming in from Scioto, heading into Altona, the Joe Wood Road is on your right and the Brunel Road is on your left, and if you're leaving town, just vice versa. Brunel Road makes a turn and it comes down this way, and that's where the headquarters were for that, not the headquarters, but their staging area for that first couple of days, and they're probably still using that as a staging area. The Devil's Den Road is here, and the Berto Road comes off the Devil's Den Road and ties into the Brunel Road. So this is the area of the fire, and of course the Rock Road runs down over here. You see this area here. So there's two ways for the road, the public to easily access it. One is that corner up where the Devil's Den Road makes a curve, and if you are coming from the Military Turnpike, you can go straight at that intersection. You want to enter the Berto Road, and the Berto Road takes you to the Brunel Road, and then the Brunel Road to the area where the fire has been. So we're hoping for an update, and we'll report as soon as we can. We are now leaving the fire station, and Hemmingford has been standing by here, along with I know Champlain, Chris Trombley was telling me, also standing by. We're in the truck with, what's it, number one? What's it called?
Car 1.
Car number 1. All right, we're in car number 1 with Eric Day, the head of Clinton County Emergency Services, and he's going to take us back as far as his vehicle will allow. Obviously, we can't go as far as we could if we went a foot, or if we went with a little four-wheeler type of vehicle, but it will give us a little inside view.
Absolutely.
Chris was telling me that here on this Tuesday the 17th, we're close to wrapping up for the most part. Clinton County's need to be here in such numbers. Is that correct?
Yeah, so after today's operations are complete, which probably about 6 o'clock tonight, the crews are going to come out. The plan for tomorrow is to not utilize any local resources. So the DEC Forest Rangers will still be here in force. There's 18 to 20 of them. I believe they're still going to continue to use the Department of Corrections crews that they've had. But as far as needing the brush trucks and tankers and manpower from local fire departments that have been working for 6 days now, some of them, and then some of the others that have cycled through, they're going to haven't ordered any of those resources. So that's gonna lighten the load on the local response.
Yeah, these local guys are all volunteers, and it's I'm sure putting a strain on their work and their home lives and everything else now. And of course the auxiliary has been here right along too, and some of those auxiliary members aren't as young as some of the firefighters are.
That's true. A lot of hard work and a lot of hours by a lot of people, all volunteer, and certainly the Rangers. We're coming up on a New York State DOT crew loading up heavy equipment that they're done with. A lot of paid folks here too have done a lot of hard work, but.
I mean,
a lot of time spent with volunteer hours doing everything from firefighting to hauling gasoline in and out of the woods for equipment, changing tires, bent rims on trucks, and preparing meals and lunches to go out during the day, and all of that stuff.
I know there'll be a report shortly. I think he waved you on. I think he saw that you were there. You were. So.
No, he's good. He's good.
Yeah. He doesn't know who you are by now. I guess we're all in trouble. Huh? I know the latest report I got around 10 said 75% containment. Are we ready to I know there'll be a report issued probably within the hour. Any idea roughly what they'll be saying then?
Well, I think they're real close to calling it 100% contained.
Wow.
That the dozer line around the perimeter is in place to reach the goal of 100% containment. The crews have been working inward towards the fire or into the black area from the dozer line at least 100 feet all the way around the perimeter. And when they clear that 100-foot loop all the way around inside the dozer line, that's the goal to say that we're 100% complete on or 100% contained. That said, there may still be fires burning inside.
Yeah, they've got those little smoldering pots there. Little, you walk by and you see a little bit of smoke coming up out of a given area.
Yep, hot spots here and there, or a stump of a tree. Certainly, and some of those may smolder or burn for days. Could be weeks. The Rangers will continue with their staff for the next 2 or 3 days with the elevated number, and assuming things look good along the way, then those numbers will reduce down. But they'll likely have 4, 5, 6 Rangers on this for a couple of weeks.
Now, was this here part of a controlled burn right here?
Some of this area along here was burned out on purpose originally a couple of days ago.
Or on the Berto Road.
On the Berto Road. Further down here, you'll see an area where there's a home here, and they went basically around it and did that to protect the home.
Yeah, it's been a little breezy, but fortunately no real strong winds. And another unfortunate thing is that the rain we got today was kind of mild.
Yeah, we were looking. I don't think we got much more than about a 1/4 inch of rain here in Altona today, which, it certainly doesn't hurt it, but it wasn't what we were hoping for.
Yeah, I know the areas to the south have been inundated with rain all day long, and of course they've had some lightning strikes down there too, which we wouldn't want to get into, but
yeah,
we could have used that rain for sure. All right, so all this was not like this when I came down this my initial trip down here. Came down here, then hooked up with the Brunel Road, and of course all this Berto Road was nice and green at the time. So, but I did notice on their map that this is an area that they had deliberately burned off to set a little perimeter around. So if you control the fire, then the fire can't spread past that controlled area.
That's right. Once it's burned once, it generally doesn't want to burn again. So this is a fire break that goes up and around this property up in there, created with a dozer, and then obviously the other side of it is burned off, the non-occupied side of it. So that's all part of that perimeter line that's been put around the fire area.
All right, we're now going to tie in with the Brunel Road, and as I mentioned earlier on this particular episode, the other end of the Brunel Road ties in with the Minor Farm Road that comes in from Scioto to Altona, right at the post office.
Yes. This is so up the end of the Brunel Road here. This is where the initial response was on Thursday.
Right.
Which you were here then.
Yes.
This is where the Altona Fire Department started out, and everybody initially grew from here, and then the secondary access is all done over on the Rock Road.
Well, obviously you would have liked to have had it done within 24 hours, but all things considered, I think you have to be happy with how it's turned out, even though it may have taken a few days longer than what you had hoped for initially.
Yeah, I think given the scope and the potential here with such dry conditions and the material, the terrain, a week is a pretty reasonable time frame for getting this thing taken care of.
Especially when we look at what happens out west on a regular basis. We're to a point where it's almost year-round out there in the west with their fires.
Right. So you walked that way or that way?
Straight.
Straight.
Yeah.
'Cause I haven't driven too much past this next intersection.
There's not.
there isn't too much past that.
The road is a little bumpy.
It's rough.
Yeah, this here, of course, wasn't burned at the time either. This was a part of the controlled burn.
Right, this was burned off. That being the dozer line that you're looking at now, that ties in. The dozer line ties back into the Burnell Road.
And from what I was told yesterday, I was a little concerned about, and I had many people mention it to me that with this flat rock, there's a lot of cracks and debris that gathers, and or there might not be any evidence on the top. There might be areas below that are still smoldering. But the spokesman yesterday said that when they put that dozer line in, they go down. They flatten that rock right out.
The dozers, it's hard work on the machine and hard on the operator, bone jarring, but yeah, they're scraping it right to the bottom, and then the crews with the brush trucks are working behind them and wetting things down all the way through. They're building a decent barrier.
After all the smoke has settled, as I mentioned to you a couple days ago, I want to get together and if people got any photos or stuff that they'd like to share, I'd be more than happy to include them in that. Let's step outside.
Yeah.
All right, we are outside. Eric's got to get on his phone here. He's a busy man, as you might expect. Obviously, some evidence that people use this area on a regular basis. But there's a little area here which we were speculating might be just a little beaver dam has made a little inland body of water here. About 365 degrees around, we can see that it's burned. Again, most of it probably in this area still, but it was coming toward this area when I left this area on Thursday. But most of this I would assume was part of that controlled burn. As Eric continues to be listening in on his phone, I'm going to wander across the burned area here, watching out for broken glass. This was not the firefighters that are leaving these brown bottles behind. So, and bottles that age, they look like they've been here for a couple of decades, to be honest. Not that familiar with that type of shape of brown bottles being sold anymore, although it's possible. But this is why they call this the Flat Rock, and I'm going to assume that there aren't too many people that have grown up in Altona that haven't found their way in here and roamed around here in their youth, not in their adulthood, Eric.
Yeah, I would think as a fair number of people come up to recreate, pick blueberries, check out the nature scene, if you will.
Yeah.
It's actually a beautiful spot.
It is a beautiful spot right here. And it's nice that it was contained to what I see today. 531 is the acreage. The last report I saw.
Yep,
531.
I think they were at 531.
And the 57 fires we mentioned several times was over 2,000 acres consumed. So this would certainly have to be a success. But of course, 61 years ago, they didn't have the equipment or the way to communicate with each other that we have these days.
Certainly didn't have the abilities in equipment, communications. Probably didn't have the number of people we have either. We've got 22 fire departments in the county currently, within the county, and of course, plenty of neighbors. We were trying to figure it out this morning. We were actually talking about that. I think there might have only been about 14 departments in the county at the time. I don't believe there weren't really that many that were very close.
Probably the numbers in the departments were greater. I would almost be certain that they were.
I would expect the same.
Each department.
I would expect the same. I mean, most departments now are somewhere between 20 and 30 members that are actively responding, and yeah, I'm sure the numbers were double that, if not more.
And there are still being fire departments incorporated or set up back in that time period. I'm not sure when. I think Cherubusco might not even be that old at this point in time, or close to that age.
Cherubusco was probably right around there. I know Cumberland Head. Cumberland Head was 1960. My own fire department, South Plattsburgh, was 1959. And there are a few other that are that vintage. Beekmantown is in that era. So yeah, there weren't as many. Certainly weren't as many.
And
when this burned last.
And a big fire like that in '57, yeah.
Yep.
And this might have been what helped spur getting the mutual aid system going.
It may have been a part of it. Absolutely, it may have been a part of what really got going what we know today and we rely on today.
I know in 1966 I started work at the Sheridan Company, which later became Harris Graphics, and ended up closing in 1987. Left the Champlain area, but and working there, the fire whistle would go and certain men would leave their machines or leave the assembly floor. The second whistle went out, others would go, and there'd be up to 3 or 4 whistles, and you probably had more men just working at that one company that were there available during the day than you've got now in the whole community.
Yeah, you're probably right. There are some employers around, even some of the bigger employers that are in the county today that are kind enough and generous enough to allow some of their folks to leave. I know, not to miss any, but Nova Bus in particular. I know some fellows that are in several different fire departments that are at Nova Bus, and on a second call, they will allow the employees to leave to go to a fire. Much appreciated. To be able to do that, because we do struggle in the volunteer fire service these days. We have members, but we compete for their time with so many other things.
Yeah.
You mentioned the number of people at the Sheridan Ironworks that were in the fire department. I think when you said that, my father's business, Day Brothers, at the boat shop when I was in high school. And even after when I was in college and worked there in the summers, there was my father was fire chief in South Plattsburgh for 15 years, most of my childhood, and there were 5, 6, 7 people that worked for Dad that were all in the fire department, and so when the fire whistle blew there, everybody left. You didn't get your boat that day if there was a fire call.
They had priority.
My mother would get mad at my father for walking up and getting up from behind the desk and leaving a customer at the desk who wanted to buy a boat to go to a fire call. But most people understood, so they got it, and I don't know that he lost too many sales because of it. But
well, we ought to at least mention his first name.
Wally, yeah, Wally Day. Everybody calls me Wally, and then they were, oh no, yep, he's your father.
Son of Wally.
Yep, son of Wally.
We've come ahead another few steps just to get a little higher view here, but all this here will grow back, and wherever there are blueberry plants, I guess they'll be thriving now from what the people in the community tell me. So,
yeah, that's what they say. After the fire, the blueberries will be big as golf balls. So I don't know about that, but I imagine they will thrive. It's Mother Nature's way.
It's an expensive way to get a pile of blueberries to grow, though.
Yes.
You figure the manpower that's
Yeah.
been here, and we mentioned the auxiliary a little bit earlier, and the community support for donated food and drinks, water and beverages has just been phenomenal. It's just incredible.
Water and soda by the pallet. People have brought in dozens and dozens of eggs, cookies, cupcakes, sweets, candies. You name it, have been brought in and donated, and then the auxiliary. I know they've made a number of trips to Sam's Club and picked up food, and of course Shane D&D has been right there cooking, and I couldn't tell you what he's donated, but I'm sure he's donated quite a bit to the operation, and fed some people really well between him and the rest of the crew working in there, the fire department auxiliary and the other volunteers that have helped them.
Yeah, and there were other stores locally that have donated. We'll try, when we do our follow-up, we'll try to get their names in there so we're gonna not overlook any more than we have to overlook. You know.
I don't know. I honestly don't even know any of them.
Yeah.
I know there was a truck there yesterday that somebody said came from Lowe's and dropped off water, but that'd be about the extent of my knowledge on that currently.
Right. Yeah. You've got other things on your mind besides.
Yeah.
Not that you look like you've skipped any meals.
I don't miss too many.
As someone who hasn't skipped any, I can say those things.
That's right. That's okay. Yeah, I hear you.
All right, so we're going to look at a jack pine, and don't go away. Before we get to that jack pine, we'll show where the dozer has come through here and cleared off the top. And Eric and I were just saying off camera that what we're seeing here, you would have seen here prior to the dozer coming through here. As you see beyond where the dozer came, there's more of that stuff growing, but this isn't very deep, as you can tell. There's not what we would call topsoil underneath there. But if you watch the show we did with Dave Franzi, you know that it takes centuries for all this stuff to happen. And
we're actually kind of on the edge of the Flat Rock jack pine ecosystem,
right,
if you will, because there's jack pine there, and then more deciduous trees in front of us and beyond. So presumably the rock is diving down here, and there's more soil over there, more common to, your backyard and mine versus the arid rock and moss surface on the Flat Rock itself.
Yeah, there's a glacier that came through here about 10,000 years ago, and
scrape.
Yeah, and that's what created all this, and the gulf up in Moore's Fork.
Right, the Gulf. Yep.
All right, let's go see if we can find that little jack pine bud.
Yeah.
Earlier today, we saw on Facebook some photos of this, and I thought maybe it was some kind of a flower blooming, but this is what the pine cones look like when they open up. Those jack pine cones, this is what they look like, and then they drop their seeds onto the ground, and there comes, and of course this is very fertile right now as far as what they want to do.
Absolutely, they'll drop the seeds and rejuvenate the species. Yeah, on the rock road on the other side of the fire, there were a number of trees with the cones that I noticed the other day that are closed right up tight. And then today, as you mentioned on Facebook, I saw a picture as well, and I said, "Oh, that's interesting." And sure enough, we're up here right now, and there's several trees with the cones popped right open because of the heat.
We got some that didn't open here, and right next to them are these here. The heat, the heat is what opens these up. And that's what these jack pine need to.
I'm wondering if some of the ones that are darker colored that are open must be from previous season, maybe, that are still hanging on the tree. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't know. Or maybe just didn't get hot enough for them to open.
Yeah.
But seems like just every jack pine in this area has sprouted a few of those.
Yeah, there's dozens of them.
Oh yeah,
Start
look
looking
that
around.
way.
Yep.
Could easily spot 100 if we started counting 100 plus.
Oh yeah.
Without going very far. So, Mother Nature at work.
Yep. Mother Nature's beauty and a disaster.
Yep. All right, we are in car number one, even though car number one's not a car. And as Eric just pointed out to me, this is what the fire looks like, and this is what it looked like before the fire. So we got both worlds here in one view. Again, fortunately, the fire on the left here was a controlled burn, and I'm sure these people that you were used as a staging area must have been a little nervous at one point. What you looking at?
Berries.
Oh, berries, blueberries.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I got some blueberries growing already here. I'm sure the natives will be out here very shortly to harvest those.
Or the birds.
Whoever gets there first.
Yeah, there's some coming right along. Yeah, big staging area on the first few days, and obviously still is today. So.
Yeah, it's the end of a dead end road, so they're probably not used to getting much company down here. So.
No, a few people getting lost and turning around, but you're right, probably not too much company.
Well, there's the snowplow turnaround right here.
School bus.
Yeah, and I imagine there are some people that come through here and park and then venture through there.
Yeah, I would assume there's a fair number of people probably hike up on the rock.
Yeah.
Recreate.
Now, is this state forest land, or has that been determined, Eric?
Well, some of it certainly is state forest. I believe some of the property that was involved in the fire also belongs to miners. Back further down here, I think there's probably some private landowners as well. But I think the majority of it is on state land. The majority of the 500 acres. But there's been a rep from miners was here on day one and has been around a couple times.
Kurt Beatty was here.
Yep, Kurt. Yep.
Now I know on day one there was talk about it drifting into the West Shazy Fire District. What happens in something like that there? Or you might have the fire going in two districts, so all of a sudden you've got two chiefs involved. What happens?
Well, yeah, that's it. There was a discussion about that when the first day the north wind was blowing, so the fire was going southward and a little east. Once that initial incident is established, if it drifts into another, everybody was engaged on the first one from the get-go. So the incident really ends up being shared, with our mutual aid system, we don't fight about who's in charge. We just work together to get it done.
Yes, and as we pointed out that first day or two, the local fire chief is actually the person in charge. The Clinton County Emergency Services is here to help and do everything you can to facilitate the fight.
Yeah, that's right. We work with the fire chief to help them get resources they need, coordinate those resources, but ultimately the local fire chief is the authority having jurisdiction. So the fire chief and the Altona Fire District in this case are the owners of the incident, if you will. It's on state land, and generally, with wildfires on state land, obviously DEC gets involved, thus their participation, and we all come together and work as a team to put things out.
And as it stands right now, after today, DEC, the forest rangers, will be doing 95% of the work here, where it won't be quite shared as equally anymore. And as we mentioned, it's, all the volunteers are putting in their time and missing days of work and maybe using up vacation days and sick days and so on. I'm sure it's a welcome relief for those guys.
Absolutely a welcome relief, and you're right. Get back to normal activity, back with your families, back to work, We had the crews here over the weekend, so a lost summer weekend with a beautiful weather. So the volunteer crews are happy to get back to their normal lives. On top of that, normal responses. So they're all going to fires every day anyway. Fires, EMS calls, car accidents. On Sunday evening, large fire in Chateaugay over in Franklin County, which drew 25 or 30 firefighters from Clinton County. It didn't diminish the efforts here at Altona. Everybody that was here was still engaged and working here, and we reached down as far as Plattsburgh to take fire apparatus and firefighters up to Chateaugay to help fight the fire up there. Sometimes it's a busy world.
Now there's a case of overlapping emergency services, because I would assume that companies like Cherubusco, maybe Ellenberg Center, maybe even the depot, might also be part of the Franklin County mutual aid system, or what? How does that work?
Well, each county in New York State maintains their own plan or their own
plan of their own response internally, and then response does occur. Though obviously there's not a wall between the counties. So sure, Cherubusco, the depot, the center, Saranac a little further south, Los Angeles Forks, they migrate back and forth across the border routinely for mutual aid. In the case on Sunday with the fire here in Altona, we actually had Franklin County units working here at the fire with Clinton County units, and then we had Clinton County units going to Franklin County because their people were here. So it was a shell game almost, so to speak, but not one that we couldn't handle or couldn't work with.
And we've got, as we mentioned off camera, we've got 2 countries and 2 states involved with our local mutual aid, and you've got Alberg and Isle Mott that regularly come over, particularly with Rouse's Point, Champlain area, and you've got Lacole, Hemingford,
St. Bernard, Hemingford, Lacole, and
St. Paul.
Routinely come down. Franklin Center, Quebec. Once in a while, we'll see them. They work with Franklin County often.
They're in the above
Chateauguay, and further across, of course, the Hogansburg, Akwesasne. They've got a big fire department, and they're here today on the Flat Rock, so they help out as well. Can't say enough about the fire service and how we work together and help each other. It's a lot of talk in government these days about shared services, and there are grants for shared services, and the county and the city working together with real property, and towns working together with codes, assessors, and things like that. One of the things my father has often said in the past when people are talking about shared services, that the volunteer fire service is probably one of the original shared services, and has been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, they set the standard, so you haven't got to look very far if you want to look to see how it's done. Just see what the fire departments are doing.
Yeah, that's right. We make it work. We seem to have it figured out. Not without its bumps once in a while, but it works, and it's important on a critical thing like emergency response to be able to have that reliability with the system.
Well, and when you hit a bump, then you learn from that, and you next time you have that situation, you've already learned from that, and you
move
on.
We'll rebound from that and learn from it, and move through that problem in the future with good practice, and until we find another problem.
But it's getting harder and harder to find problems because everything is going so smooth.
Yeah, things are smooth, but we still as we try to improve things, we still create problems once in a while. But that's life, right?
Will there be
you work through them?
Will you guys get together after all this and kind of have a brainstorming, sit down type of thing?
So
what would we do? What could we have done?
What we'll probably do. We often do is a kind of an after action review, we'll call it, or a hot wash sometimes they'll call it, but you're right, just sit down and talk about the operation. Well, what went good, what went bad, and what can we do better next time. The fire chiefs from each of the fire departments in the county sit on a fire advisory board is created by the county, and we meet every other month and talk about incidents and plans and communications, and all the things that make it work together. And this incident will certainly be a topic at one of those meetings where we'll hash out any kind of problems we might have arisen, and not only the bad things, but we'll also talk about the good things. Hey, this went well. Yeah. Remember that. We're going to do that again, and hey, let's write that into a plan, and make sure we do it that way next time.
Yeah, but 60 years from now, we might all be back here again.
I hope it's that long.
Or longer.
Or longer. Yeah, that's true. That long or longer.
So unless something surprising suddenly pops up, this will be our end of our video coverage. We'll continue on Facebook and to share any updates we get from here, written updates. But as far as video, this will be it. Our intent now is to do a follow-up after all is said and done, and we also want to get people together who were around here in '57 and do a separate story on the devastating fire of 1957 that took place here. So Hometown Cable's look at the Altona Flat Rock Forest Fire, July 17th, 2018. You're watching viewer-supported local television, Hometown Cable. If you appreciate the effort that Hometown Cable goes through to bring you programming like this and all the ball games and other important board meetings and history that we cover and uncover. We need to hear from you. We need viewer support to keep this programming coming, and unfortunately a very, very small portion of the public is supporting our efforts. And we can't close without echoing again the outstanding job that the state workers did, but also the volunteers that showed up here. And not just the firefighters who are out in the line, but the auxiliary members who are here, and all the community has stepped up and made sure these people were fed and things went smoothly when they were able to come in off the fire line. Thanks for watching and supporting viewer-supported local television, Hometown Cable TV. We think is worthy of your support.